The worst debt you own might be the best guaranteed return you'll ever get. That $6,940 balance burning a hole in your account right now can beat the stock market, guaranteed, tax-free, with zero market risk. And the part that almost never gets said out loud, someone earning far less than you, carrying the exact same debt, can finish tens of thousands of dollars ahead of you. Not because they paid it off faster, because they understood what the debt actually was. Almost nobody does. Picture two people with the identical $6,940 balance, the same 23% interest rate, the same tight month. One of them opens the banking app every morning and feels their chest go tight. To them, the debt is a sentence, served one painful payment at a time. The other looks at the very same number and sees a 23% return lying on the table, waiting to be picked up. Same balance, same math, opposite future. The only thing that split them apart was the story each one believed about that number. This is the story of how that second person turns a balance most people are terrified of into a $100,000 head start. And the one moment, right around the day the debt finally dies, where almost everyone quietly hands it all back. Stick with me, and I'll walk you to that exact moment, step by step. Subscribe if you want the rest of these. So here's the reframe that changes everything. You don't have a debt problem. You're refusing to buy a guaranteed 23% investment that's sitting right in front of you. Read that again. When you pay down a card charging 23%, you don't just lower a balance, you lock in a 23% return on that money. Guaranteed, tax-free, the same instant the payment clears. The market can't promise you that. No fund, no property, no founder can. Your debt was never a moral failure. It's a math problem, and math problems have answers. Here's the distinction the wealthy grew up on, and most of us never heard. There's debt that buys things that die, and debt that buys things that grow. The vacation on the card, the dinner, the gadget, that's borrowing from your future self with a penalty stapled on. A loan against a rental, a business that throws off cash, a skill that raises your income. That's using the bank's money to build your own. High-interest card debt is the most expensive version of the first kind. The good news? It's also the easiest one to flip, and it costs you more than money. When you open your banking app, does your stomach drop, or do you breathe out? Debt tax is something you can't see. Researchers call it a bandwidth tax. The low hum of worry quietly eats your focus, your sleep, your decisions. That's the real trap. Not the balance, the fog it puts you in, the fog that whispers there's no way out. There is. You just haven't been shown the door. Step one happens before you change a single payment. It happens in how you see the money leaving your account. Right now, it feels like punishment. Cash vanishing into a black hole. Flip it. Every dollar you send to that 23% card isn't a payment. It's a deposit into one of the best guaranteed returns most people will ever see. Chasing the market's historical 10%, an average, never a promise. While feeding a guaranteed 23% loss to the bank makes no sense. Your first investment isn't a fund. It's the debt itself, so get a little ruthless about it. Every extra payment fires the bank as your money manager and hires you for the job. You're bending a river of cash that's been flowing out of your life back toward your own pocket. And here's what the second person understood. The debt isn't draining you. It's training you. The discipline you build here is the exact muscle that builds the $100,000 later. And here's the strange part. The moment you attack that debt on purpose, something lifts before the balance even moves. That bandwidth tax starts refunding you. Your head clears, and you make sharper money calls everywhere else in your life. Paying down debt doesn't just make you richer. It measurably makes you think better. Which is why we don't do this randomly. We do it with a plan that hits the most expensive dollar first. So map the battlefield first. one sheet of paper, or one spreadsheet. Write down every debt you have, balance, minimum payment, and interest rate, and line them up from the highest rate to the lowest. Most people never do this. They feel the weight of the debt as one giant blur, which is exactly what keeps them frozen. The blur is the enemy. The list is the cure. The second you can see all of it in a column, the impossible mountain turns into a stack of small solvable problems. Now the weapon. It's called the avalanche. You throw every extra dollar at the debt with the highest interest rate, while paying only the minimums on the rest. When that worst card dies, you take its entire payment and roll it onto the next highest rate, then the next. Done consistently, it's the fastest way out and the one that saves you the most in interest, because you're always killing the most expensive dollar in the room. Some people chase the smallest balance first for a quick win. And honestly, the best plan is the one you'll actually stick to. Make it concrete. Say you scrape together an extra $280 a month. You don't sprinkle it across every card to feel productive. You pay the minimums on the smaller ones, and you drop the entire $280 onto the one card screaming at you with a 25% rate. You hammer that single card, month after month, until it's dead. Then the whole payment avalanches onto the next. You can feel the momentum just hearing it. Each balance you bury frees up more firepower for the next one. Quick question, because I'm curious where you land. Of everything so far, the mindset flip, the list, the avalanche, which one have you been avoiding the longest? Drop it in the comments in one honest line. The most common answer becomes next week's video. Saying it out loud is how it stops running your life from the shadows. There's a way to pour fuel on this, with one serious warning attached. If your credit is decent, you may be able to take a single personal loan at around 10% and use it to wipe out every high-interest card at once. That can mean one payment instead of 5, and far more of your money hitting the actual balance instead of the interest. But only if the rate, the fees, and the terms actually lower your total cost. So run the numbers before you sign anything. And this only works for the disciplined. The danger is obvious. Those cards are now empty and tempting. If you consolidate and then quietly run the cards back up, you haven't fixed the problem. You've doubled it. Freeze them. Cut them up if you have to. And now the moment I promised you at the start, the one right around the day the debt finally dies, where almost everyone hands it all back. You make the final payment. The relief is enormous. That big chunk of money is suddenly free. And here's the quiet disaster. Most people just let it dissolve. A little more takeout, a slightly nicer everything. It has a name, lifestyle inflation, and it walks you straight back to square one after all that work. The money you used to pay the bank was never spending money. It was always an investment contribution. You just hadn't met its final destination yet. So you do the one thing that flips this whole story permanently. On the very day you clear that last balance, you don't celebrate by spending it. You log in and set up an automatic transfer, the exact same amount you were sending the bank, into a wealth building account every single month. A retirement account, or a plain low-cost index fund. Your budget already runs without that money. You proved that for years. You just stop paying the bank with that intensity and start paying yourself with it. This is the engine that gets you to 6 figures. Say the payment you freed up was $760 a month. Invested steadily at an 8% average annual return, that crosses $100,000 in roughly 8 years. Sit with the symmetry of that. You spent 7 years and over $7,000 in interest to paying the bank. And the very same payment, pointed the other direction, pays you $100,000. None of that is a promise. Markets don't move in straight lines, and some years will sting. But your largest expense, once eliminated, has just become your most powerful wealth-building tool. So here's exactly what you do starting today. Not tomorrow, today. This week, one 10-minute task. Make the list. Every debt, every balance, every interest rate, lined up from highest to lowest. That's it. No payment, no app, no big decision. Just look the whole thing in the eye on a single page. That 10 minutes is the line where the second person in our story stops being a story and starts being you. This month, pick the single highest rate debt on that list and aim every spare dollar at it while you hold the minimums on the rest. One target, not all of them. This quarter, set up the one thing most people skip, a standing automatic transfer that's ready to redirect the moment a debt clears so the freed up money never gets a chance to dissolve into your lifestyle. Small step now, medium habit this month, structure by the end of the quarter. That's the whole machine. And let the scale land. That $760 a month isn't really $760. Held at an 8% historical average, it compounds past $100,000 in about 8 years. And barely $73,000 of that is your own money. The rest is time doing the work you used to do for the bank. That 8% is a long-run average, not a guarantee. The point is the direction, not the exact figure. The same discipline, aimed at your future instead of your past, quietly becomes a fortune. So it comes down to a choice, quieter than people expect. You run the debt, or the debt runs you. Those are the only two seats. The first person never picked. They just kept serving the sentence, paying interest into the fog, hoping it would lift on its own. The second person did the math and saw that the fog was the only thing holding them in the chair. You either own the number, or the number owns you. If this lit something up in you, and you're done serving a sentence you were never actually sentenced to, subscribe. We're walking this whole path together, payment by payment, and do one thing before you click away. Leave a single word in the comments. Day 1. Not as a slogan, as a marker. It tells the next person scrolling by that someone exactly like them looked the number in the eye and started anyway, and if the part that stuck with you was that wealth engine, the freed up payment quietly compounding while you sleep. That's the video to watch next. The same $760 run over 30 years instead of 8. The trap was never the debt. It was believing you couldn't move. You can. It starts with a list and 10 minutes. Today.